Right, so this set of videos is going to be over about 18 months, I would guess. I'm going to rebuild this motorcycle from scratch. I've got all of the parts in storage in various lockers and garages and things dotted around. I've got to go and find some of them, admittedly. So the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be locked in here for 3 weeks thanks to the coronavirus problem at the moment. So unlike many people, I suppose, don't mind being locked in my house because it gives me an opportunity to catch up on a lot of these projects that I've got. It's a nice blue sky day here in England, so I can't complain of that. In fact, it's been like this all week, which is a perfect week really to get on with these projects. So part one here, we're going to look at this frame, because before we do anything you've got to make sure the frame's good. Now this frame is off a German World War II Zundapp. It's a 1941 KS600. I've got one of these bikes already, and I've also got a K800. I've collected these parts over the last maybe 4 or 5 years from a lot of places like Poland, Latvia, Russia and places like that. So I thought, well, again, like I said, while I'm locked in, we'll have a crack on with this now. Let's have a quick look over the frame. This is classic sort of frame that you get that's been through the mill, it's been through the war. It's probably been in the back end of Russia somewhere over the years, or somewhere in Eastern Germany or something like that. And it's had a history of adaptation, different motors fitted to it and things like that. Now I know this bike quite well, and everything I say is going to relate generally to any frame. It doesn't really matter. So there's a couple of things we need to look at. Is what's standard, what's not, what's damaged, what's not, and the geometry. Is the geometry okay? So let's have a quick wander across here, starting at the front here. You can look at the, in fact there you can see where the old name tag used to be. I have got these, and you can see the Wehrmacht growl underneath there, the original colour, and likewise up here on the head. So have a quick look at the bearing seats. Whilst they're dirty, they actually look like they're pretty good intact. There's no damage to them or anything. The frame is pretty good. Obviously I had a quick check over this frame when I bought it some years back. Down here we've got the horn mount, gear change lever there. So I can't see any obvious damage here. This hole I think is an additional one. Yep, you can just in fact make out there a triangle. So that's been retrofitted with a 4-point sidecar, so 2 lower mounts, one there, one there, one there. But by standard, this the KS600 only has sidecar reinforcement bracket fitted there with a ball off of this one or that one, and it has another one here which you can see the shape of as well, and then it has the rear one fitted off the back here. So you can tell at some point someone has changed this and drilled this hole and fitted that. It could have been done by the army in World War II for the later BW sidecars, or it could have just been a reinforcement bracket, or more likely it's fitted with some kind of Euro frame later. So let's have a quick wander around here. Got the serial number in there, which dates it to 1941. Everything else seems to be fine this side. Get down to this end. These are non-standard holes here. Someone's put these dirty grey bolts through to there, which again suggests it was fitted some kind of different rear end from the standard Zundapp one. This hole standard, that's how it should look. Down there you can see, and someone's widened them and threaded them, which is going to be a bit of a pain to fix, but we're going to have to do that. There's a foot peg rusted on there, which we'll get off in a bit. We've got some kind of dodgy weld here. It looks like someone's caked it on with an arc welder or something. We'll have a look at that as well. We'll grind that flush and see what kind of penetration they got. So we've got the rear reinforcement brackets here. This is for when you have the pillion seat fitted and the saddlebags, the metal containers or the leather ones. And then over here we've got somebody's unorthodox repair. I'm not quite sure what you call that, but there we go, it is what it is. Around this side all looks pretty good, I can see. These are for the rubber knee guards up here. Yeah, quite happy with that. Alright, next thing let's look at is the geometry. So let's have a quick gander at this, make sure she looks roughly right. You can see you've got a slight gap down there, which is, it doesn't matter too much because I doubt very much after the abuse these have had, especially with a heavy sidecar, most of these frames tend to get a bit twisted. So let's have a look at this side over here. The gap is slightly bigger, but not by a lot. So the next thing is to see whether we consider this to be a right angle, which it is. It looks 90 degrees to the frame that side. Then we slide over this way. Not sure about that. That one looks an easy 90 degree. This one not so. I'll have a think about that for a bit. Okay, and then the next thing is, see the axle alignment, does that appear roughly central? It's not too bad. Now I noticed, I've done one of these before, and I've noticed that when you start bolting it together, it kind of jigs itself out a bit. So if it's not a long way out, I'm not sure it warrants too much squeezing and bending. I suspect the slight difference here is because of the weld that occurs there. But overall I think it's okay. So right, next thing is to have a bit of a sanding episode. Right, 2 tools for this: the flat wheel and the good old brush wheel. So first thing is we're going to set up the camera and we're going to strip all this paint back, have a look at the rest of it, get a few of these bits and bobs off. These things can stay and go from there. So the stripping's going quite well. You can see we've got it all off. See these little rust marks under the paint, which is quite interesting. So I've taken it back to a bit more bare metal there. The rust we'll sort out later. Ground the weld down, so that's looking quite nice. Removed all the parts and I've cut that off. I'm going to make a new extension for that at a later date so it matches that one. So we'll deal with that. Now the last thing I've got to do is a couple of things actually. Just got to grind that off. I've got this little bugger here which I can't get off at the moment. I'm sure we've all come across these problems. It's got some dirty, great big washer thing on that side. And it's a great big tractor nut thing on the other side. And of course it's, I don't know if they welded it on or something, but can't get the angle grinder in there to cut it off. Heated it up, just doesn't want to move. So I'm going to fiddle around with that for a bit. Right, so I had a right old job trying to get this off. Anyway, I've managed to cut it off, and then it wouldn't come out because the thread was, this hole is obviously threaded into the frame, and the thread had crossed on the bit. So I was doing this with it and it just wouldn't bite, which is a real nuisance. So now what I've done is I've ground the thread off. So finally, out she comes. He says, and it gets stuck right at the last minute. Here we go. Come on. Jeez, no, see? Oh, here we go, got it. Right, that's that job. Slowly getting there. Right, let's have a quick long wander around. So you can see that we're getting on quite well. A lot of this I've taken off with the flap disc. I've used one of these flails, which is quite a useful tool. That's quite good for taking off the coarser paint, the top level, and chipping the paint and stuff. And then I go over it with the flap disc, just give it a bit of a key, and you've got, like I said earlier, you've got to be a bit careful with this. You don't want it to be too smooth. And I might go over and just sand it down and just give it a bit more of a once over with, wet and dry, quite coarse, before I give it a prime later. Right, carry on around the other side. 6 hours later of sanding and using the wire brush and the drill. Wish I'd had the sandblaster handy, but I can't get to it at the moment. So anyway, we're 90% there now. Got rid of most of it. A little bit of surface there. And so whilst going along this, I've discovered a few things with it. There's a stuck bolt we need to get out up there. The seats, all the seat holders here are bent, and down there as well. So I'm going to have to do that. There's, where are we? There's another piece that we need to, that was welded badly. Can't find it now. There's a piece, oh here we go. That needs sorting out. That was a drill hole, like I said, I'll weld that up. And what else have we got? Small piece of weld there. And I noticed around the back here somewhere, when I had this upside down, there was a small crack in the frame where someone had reinforced it. It might be up here underneath. So I'm going to have to go and get the MIG welder now and do that. So before we do the MIG, if you just leave this like this, it's just going to rust again pretty quickly. Even within a few days you get surface rust on it. So I'm going to give it a quick coat of gear, which I'll show you in a second, just to protect it for a while. So here it is, a little tub of magic breast milk to go over there, and I'll show you what it does right now. It's pretty good stuff, this. Any surface rust that there might have been, it's completely gone, and it's as solid as a rock now. It's good stuff. That actually converts iron oxide into iron phosphate. If you want to, you can Google the process, or I'll put a link to the product if you like. So that's where we are with that. So I'm going to put a coat of that on there for a while, just to protect it whilst I go around and fix some of these welds. I might actually blow over a little bit of red oxide primer in the areas where I know I don't need to do any work, just to give, because there's going to be a slight delay before I can go and get the MIG welder. Right, so you can see that it comes out with quite a nice colour. It's not paint, remember that, it's not paint, this stuff actually changes the metal itself, the surface. So it bonds really well because it is part of the metal, of course. So there you go. Now I've just been over with a heat gun because it's a little bit cold here at the moment, and I've decided I am going to give it a quick dusting of red oxide primer, just to protect it, because I think it's going to be a few days or so before I can get back and fiddle with it properly. So I'm just going to warm the metal up, make sure it's dry as well. I'm going to give it a quick dust over with the old rattle can of red oxide. So I'll just do that for another half an hour, or 20 minutes or something, get it nice and warm. You can see it's a bit cold. The paint doesn't comes out a bit blobby. Doesn't matter too much because we're going to give it a good sand anyway at some point. It's just really just to stop some of the rust getting in there, and these light mists over it first. Normally I'd get the compressor out and I'd do it with the compressor, but not today. This stuff actually sticks pretty well anyway, to be honest, especially when the frame's warm. There we go, looks pretty good so far. That'll do for the moment until we get to work on the few repairs. For a cup of tea break, And now we're going to fix this back part of the frame here that someone's messed up. So it's quite easy to mark this out. All I did was get a piece of steel. I use this bit of wood shade, put it around like that, draw around it, then cut one of these out. If you noticed when earlier on when I cut this through, I don't know if you saw it on the video, I deliberately left part of the hole there. That enabled me to quite easily line up where this goes without having to mess about too much. I've cut a little V slot on there just so I can get a bit of weld in there, and this was all flush right across here. Come down an angle. That was all quite flush right the way across there. So I've ground it down, I'll put a slitting disc down there, cut it down for the moment. So I'm going to get this welded on here, and then once it's on there we'll go along and tidy it all up, and then hopefully that'll be that section done. Right, a few hours later of mucking around with the TIG welder. Should have used the MIG really. It's finished. There we go. You can see they looks an awful lot better. It's not too bad. I'm quite pleased with the way it's come out. So that's pretty much it for the frame now. I think we'll put the frame away in storage and move on to the next part.